The night they sold her, the moon bled. And the monster who bought her. He wasn't supposed to have a heart. He definitely wasn't supposed to fall in love. But destiny. Destiny doesn't ask for permission. This is the story of Lyra, the girl every human abandoned, and the vampire prince who swore to destroy the world before he'd lose her too. Quick one. Drop your country or city in the comments. Let's see how far this story travels. The night they sold Lyra Dane, the moon turned a deep, unsettling red, like an omen yawning open in the sky. The crowd gathered in the old stone courtyard whispered among themselves, their voices like rustling leaves. She's the last one, someone said. Poor girl, sold for her father's debts. She looks terrified. Lyra stood on the wooden auction platform, wrists tied loosely in front of her. They didn't bind her tightly. She was too thin, too exhausted, and too defeated to run. The cold wind pushed her hair across her face, and she blinked hard to keep tears from falling. Her father didn't even look at her. He stood at the foot of the platform, sweating and shaking as he stared at the vampire nobles gathered around. The debt collector had one hand on his shoulder. Firm, warning, final. Move, girl, the auction master snapped, turning Lyra toward the crowd. Head up. Lyra lifted her chin a little, though her heart thumped painfully. She had known this moment might come. For years her father had gambled, lied, and stolen, always promising that things would get better. But when the debt he owed was to vampires, there was no escaping it. The bidding began with a chilling energy. 200 marks, a witch noble called. 500, a hooded vampire replied. 1,000, added a human lord trying to impress someone. Lyra felt her body tighten. She didn't want to go with any of them. She didn't want this life. But she had no voice, no option, no freedom. Then a deep, powerful voice cut through the chaos. 40,000 marks. Silence fell instantly. Heads turned. Even the torches seemed to flicker in shock. Lyra's breath caught in her throat as the crowd parted. A tall figure in a black cloak stepped forward, moving with the slow, confident grace of a predator. His face was pale and impossibly sharp, framed by long dark hair that fell past his shoulders. His crimson eyes glowed like embers beneath a hood. Whispers exploded. It's him, Prince Draven Morvain, the Midnight King. He hasn't attended an auction in years. Lyra's knees almost buckled. She had heard the stories. Everyone had. Draven was the vampire prince who lived in the cursed fortress at the edge of the realm. People said he killed for sport. They said he walked with shadows. They said he had once loved a woman so fiercely that when she died, the whole forest screamed for days. Why would he buy her? The auction master swallowed hard, then lifted the hammer with trembling hands. 40,000 marks. Going once. Going twice. Lyra squeezed her eyes shut. Please no. Sold to Prince Draven Morvain. The hammer struck wood with a sharp crack. Lyra opened her eyes just in time to see Draven lift his hand slightly, signaling for her to be brought down. 2 guards led her down the steps, but Draven raised a single finger and they froze. I will take her myself, he said quietly. His voice was smooth, cold, but strangely calm. He stepped toward her, and the crowd instinctively moved back, as if frightened of even brushing against him. Draven stopped right in front of Lyra. She barely reached his chest. He smelled faintly of rain and old metal. He studied her for a long moment, his red eyes glowing with something she couldn't name. You are trembling, he said softly. She swallowed. I'm just cold. That is a lie, he murmured. Lyra's cheeks warmed. She looked away. Draven tilted her chin up gently with a gloved finger. You were not sold, little star, he said quietly. You were claimed. Her heart fluttered painfully at the words. Before she could respond, he took her by the hand, not harshly, not cruelly, but firmly, and led her past the stares and gasps of the crowd. As they stepped into the shadow carriage waiting at the gate, Lyra dared to ask, Where are you taking me? Draven's eyes flickered toward her, unreadable. To your new home. And if I don't want to go? He didn't smile, but something like dark amusement touched his expression. That is the problem, Lyra Dane, he said. You have never truly known what you want. But you will. The carriage door closed, sealing her fate. The horses, black as night, lunged forward, and the world outside disappeared behind them. The journey felt endless. The forest grew darker the further they traveled, until the moonlight vanished completely. Strange sounds echoed between the trees. Hollow, haunting, almost human. Lyra pressed closer to the corner of the carriage. Draven sat across from her, hands folded, face partly in shadow. He watched her, but not unkindly. More like he was studying her carefully, observing her reactions. She finally gathered the courage to speak. Why did you buy me? Draven tilted his head slightly. You are quick to ask the questions you fear most. I'd rather know than be scared. Good, he said. Then I will tell you the truth. He leaned forward, elbows resting on his knees. I have enemies, dangerous ones, and a kingdom that is not as loyal as it once was. Lyra frowned. So, you bought me to use me. To protect you, Draven corrected. That doesn't make any sense, she snapped. I'm just a human girl. I can't protect myself, let alone a vampire prince. His gaze deepened. Not yet. Not yet. You will understand in time. Lyra's frustration grew. I don't want to be part of your politics or your battles. I don't even want to be here. Draven's face softened just slightly. Lyra, he said, you were living a life where no one saw you. No one cared for you. Your father cast you aside without a thought. Her throat tightened painfully. You think I don't know misery? Draven continued. You think I have not lived in darkness. I chose you because I see something in you. Something rare. What is it? His eyes flickered with an unreadable emotion. Strength. Lyra didn't feel strong. She felt scared, confused, and small. But something in his voice made her chest warm, a strange comfort she didn't expect. Before she could ask more, the carriage stopped. A cold wind blew through the door as Draven stepped out, then extended a hand for her. Welcome to Morvaine's citadel. Lyra stepped down and froze. The castle was massive. Dark towers spiraled into the sky, disappearing into the mist. Black stone walls glistened like wet obsidian. Windows were narrow slits, glowing faintly with dim red light. The gates creaked open on their own, and the shadowy courtyard felt deserted. Is anyone here? Lyra whispered. Some, Draven said. Not comforting. Inside, the castle was breathtaking and terrifying. Tall arches, marble floors, massive tapestries depicting ancient wars. But everything felt cold, as if no one had laughed or lived here in centuries. A woman stepped forward, a tall human with gray hair tied in a tight bun, wearing dark robes. Prince Draven, she bowed. You have returned. Sarah, Draven nodded. This is Lyra Dane. Prepare a chamber for her. East wing is forbidden. Sarah stiffened slightly, eyes flashing with something Lyra couldn't read. As you command. Draven turned to Lyra. You will sleep in the west wing, he said. You will have food, clothes, and safety here. She nodded weakly. The prince paused, searching her eyes. Lyra, you are not a prisoner here. Her disbelief must have shown on her face because Draven added. You have my word. No one will touch you. No one will feed on you. No one will force anything upon you. You have more freedom here than you ever did in your old home. Lyra swallowed hard. Then why does it feel like I'm trapped? Draven's eyes softened, really softened, for the first time. Because you cannot see the whole picture yet. Before she could reply, he brushed past her and disappeared into the shadows of a long hallway. Sarah gestured for Lyra to follow. They walked through long corridors lit by flickering candles. Strange eyes watched them from the walls, painted portraits of old rulers, all looking angry or mournful. "How many people live here?" Lyra asked quietly. "Not many anymore," Sarah said. "Most left after the tragedy." "What tragedy?" Sarah hesitated. "Prince Draven once had a queen," she said in a low voice. "She died. Violently." Lyra's heart froze. "How did she die?" "It is not my place to say," Sarah whispered. "But I will say this, if you value your life, do not go near the East Wing." Lyra shivered. "Is that why I heard screaming?" Sarah's eyes widened. "You heard it already." Lyra nodded slowly. Sarah grabbed her arm. "Listen to me. This castle has secrets. Dark ones. If you want to survive, stay close to the West Wing. Follow Prince Draven's rules. And whatever you do," she leaned in closer, "do not let the shadows call your name." Lyra's stomach twisted. Her new room was beautiful. Soft bedding, warm fire, clean clothes. But the moment Sarah left, the silence felt suffocating. Lyra sat on the edge of the bed, hugging her knees. "What have I gotten myself into?" she whispered. A cold breeze brushed her neck. The candle flickered. And from somewhere deep within the castle, a woman cried, a long, broken, echoing wail. Lyra's blood turned to ice. She wasn't alone. And whatever was inside this castle, it was watching her. Lyra woke with a start. The room was still dark, though the fire had burned low. But something had woken her, something soft and distant. She sat up, heart pounding. There it was again. A woman crying. It wasn't loud. It wasn't close. It was the kind of sorrowful wail that sounded like it was traveling through thick walls or hidden tunnels. The sound rose, trembled, then died away slowly. Lyra wrapped her arms around herself. "Mo, Mo. This can't be real." She stood, crossed the room, and pressed her ear against the door. Silence. After a long moment, she exhaled shakily and backed away. "This place is haunted," she whispered. She tried to return to sleep, but every time she closed her eyes, she imagined a pale woman standing over her bed. By dawn, she felt weak and exhausted. Sarah knocked softly before entering with a tray of warm food. "You look pale," Sarah said, examining her. "Did you sleep at all?" Lyra shook her head. There was crying. Sarah's spoon froze halfway to placing porridge into a bowl. She set it down slowly. "Lyra," she said quietly, "did the voice call your name?" "No. Just crying." Sarah's shoulders lowered slightly in relief. "Good. Very good." Lyra frowned. "Why are you so afraid?" Sarah hesitated, then sat beside her. "Because this castle remembers everything," she murmured. "Even the things we wish it would forget." Lyra didn't understand but stayed silent, letting Sarah continue. "Before you arrived, Morvaine's citadel was filled with life. Vampires, human servants, nobles. But then the queen died." "Draven's queen," Lyra whispered. Sarah nodded. "Queen Ilara." A name that already sent a chill down Lyra's spine. "She was beautiful," Sarah went on, her voice soft. "Kind. Strong. Loved by the people. And she loved Prince Draven more fiercely than anyone had ever loved him." Lyra swallowed. "What happened to her?" Sarah looked toward the window as though checking if someone else was listening. "No one agrees on the truth. Some say the queen was murdered by Draven's enemies. Some say she fell, pushed by a jealous rival. And others." She leaned closer, voice barely a whisper. "Others say she never left the castle. Her death was so violent, her spirit never found rest." Lyra's stomach tightened. Why would her spirit be crying? "Because she died in pain," Sarah said simply. "And because this castle, her home, still carries that pain." Lyra rubbed her arms to stop the chills. "What does this have to do with me?" Sarah looked directly at her. "You sleep in the West Wing. Ilara died in the East Wing. The Forbidden One. But her spirit roams the passages. And every woman brought into this castle, every girl who steps foot here, Sarah swallowed hard. She watches them. Why? Sarah touched Lyra's cheek gently. Because you are in her place. Lyra's heart hammered. I'm not replacing her, Lyra whispered. I'm nobody. Draven bought me because he said he needed someone strong. Sarah shook her head slowly. That's what scares me most. Strong women attract strong spirits. A sudden knock at the door cut their conversation short. The door opened and Draven entered. Lyra straightened instantly. He looked different this morning, sharper, colder, his hair tied back. His cloak replaced with a dark embroidered jacket that made him look impossibly regal. His eyes swept the room, landing on Lyra. You were awake all night. It wasn't a question. It was an observation. Lyra looked down. Yes. Draven's jaw tightened. Because of the crying. Sarah stiffened. Your Highness. Draven raised a hand. It's fine, Sarah. Leave us. Sarah bowed and left swiftly, closing the door behind her. Draven stepped closer to Lyra. You heard her again, he said quietly. Lyra's voice trembled. Who is she? For a long moment, Draven didn't answer. He turned away, looking out the window as morning light washed over part of his face. Yet he stood carefully in the shade. There are things in this castle that predate your world, he said finally. Things that should never have been awakened. Is it the Queen? Lyra asked softly. He closed his eyes briefly, as if in pain, then turned to face her. You are not ready for that truth yet. Lyra rose from the bed. I can handle it. No, Draven said firmly, stepping closer. You survived heartbreak, cruelty, and abandonment. But the truth behind this castle's sorrow, it is not for fragile hearts. I'm not fragile, Lyra whispered. Draven's eyes softened, just a little. That is what I am afraid of. Lyra's breath caught. She didn't know what that meant. She didn't dare ask. But she knew this. Prince Draven Morvain was hiding something enormous. And whatever it was tied to her. Later that evening, Sarah led Lyra to a large stone courtyard behind the castle. The moon hung silver and full, casting long shadows across the cracked ground. Prince Draven wants you here, Sarah said. For what? Lyra asked. You'll see. Then she left. Lyra stood alone, hugging her arms, confused and anxious. The air was colder here. Heavier. Soft footsteps echoed. Draven emerged from the shadows, wearing black training clothes instead of royal attire. His dark hair fell loose over his shoulders, and a silver dagger hung at his hip. Come, he said. You're training me. Lyra asked. Yes. Why? Because you're vulnerable, he said, circling her slowly. Because you will be targeted. And because you cannot rely on others for protection. Lyra frowned. But I can't fight. I've never learned. That is why you will start now. He tossed her a wooden practice dagger. Lyra barely caught it. Hold it properly, Draven said. I don't know how. Then learn. He stepped behind her and adjusted her grip. His gloved hands were cold but controlled. His voice was close to her ear. Your shoulders are too tense. Loosen them. I'm trying. He moved away, eyes locked on her. Again. Stand like you mean to live. Lyra took a deep breath and corrected her posture. She felt foolish, but Draven nodded slightly. Better. What exactly are you training me for? She asked. For survival, Draven replied. Survival from who? He looked at her for a long moment. My enemies, he said quietly. And yours. I don't have enemies, Lyra whispered. You do now. Her stomach twisted. Attack me, Draven said suddenly. What? No. He stepped closer. Attack me. But, Lyra, he said, voice deepening, your hesitation will get you killed. His words hit her like cold water. She charged awkwardly, swinging the wooden dagger. Draven easily sidestepped, catching her wrist and twisting gently until she dropped the weapon. You commit too slowly, he said. That's because I don't want to hurt you. Draven's expression flickered, almost amused. You can't hurt me. Well, that makes this useless. He moved in a flash, grabbing her arm and pulling her close. You are learning to hurt others, not me, he murmured. If someone comes for you, they will not hesitate. Lyra's heart hammered in her chest. Draven released her and stepped back. Again. Lyra picked up the dagger and tried again. And again. And again. Each time he corrected her. Each time she learned something new. She was panting, sweating, and exhausted when Draven finally said, "That's enough." Lyra dropped the dagger with relief. "I think my arms are going to fall off." He almost smiled. "You did well." "Really?" "Yes. You learn faster than most." Lyra couldn't help but feel a small burst of pride. "Maybe I'm not as useless as I thought." Draven stepped closer, so close she instinctively leaned back. "You were never useless." His voice was low and sincere. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Draven looked away as if catching himself. "Come," he said. "There is more to learn." He led her inside, down a dim corridor Lyra hadn't seen before. Torches flickered along stone walls covered in ancient carvings. "What is this place?" Lyra asked. "The Hall of Echoes," Draven said. "Used for training vampires to detect lies." Lyra shivered. "Why bring me here?" Draven stopped and faced her. "Because you must learn to sense danger, even if it wears a smile." "Can humans even learn that?" "Rarely," Draven said. "But I believe you can." He stood directly in front of her, his eyes glowing faintly red. "I want you to listen to my voice. Feel the air. Pay attention to the tone, the heartbeat, the silence between words." Lyra nodded nervously. Draven said, "I want to protect you." Truth. She felt it in her bones. Then he said, "I want to harm you." The words felt empty, cold, hollow. Lyra swallowed. "I can tell." "Good," Draven murmured. Again. He spoke truths. Lies. Half-lies. Twisted truths. She learned to feel the difference, like a shift in the air, like the change in pressure before a storm. After nearly an hour, Lyra leaned against the wall, drained. "I can't do more." Draven stepped to her side. "You have done more in one night than expected." Lyra managed a weak smile. "Does that mean I pass your tests?" Draven's eyes softened. "You are alive. That is what matters." They walked back toward the West Wing. The castle felt quieter tonight, though Lyra still sensed something lurking, watching, listening. Her door, Draven stopped. "One more lesson," he said softly. Lyra frowned. "What lesson?" He leaned close, his voice barely above a whisper. "Never open your door after midnight. No matter who calls your name." A chill shot through her. "Why?" "Because some voices in this castle are not alive." Lyra swallowed. "Then who will protect me?" His expression turned dark and unreadable. "I will." Before she could respond, he disappeared into the shadows as if he had never been there. Lyra stood frozen outside her door. Her hand trembled as she touched the handle. Inside her room, she collapsed onto the bed, staring at the ceiling. She was training. She was learning. She was becoming stronger. But the castle, Queen, and Draven's secrets, they were pulling her into something far bigger. A war she didn't understand. A destiny she never asked for. And a prince she couldn't help but trust, even when he told her not to. The days that followed were heavy with tension. Lyra could feel it in the hallways, in the trembling candles, in the stiff posture of the servants who remained in the castle. Something was coming. Something dark. And Draven knew it. He trained her longer, harder. He made her practice until her arms shook and her breath burned. But he never raised his voice, never hurt her, never pushed her too far. He watched her with eyes that saw more than she understood. One night, after an exhausting training session, Lyra sat on the stone steps of the courtyard. "I don't get it," she said between breaths. Why train me like this? Why now? Why so fast? Draven stood before her, barely breathing hard at all. Because my enemies believe you are a weakness, he said. Lyra frowned. Me? Yes, he said quietly. They think humans are fragile, disposable. But you, he studied her face. You are proving them wrong. Lyra didn't know how to respond. She looked away, feeling her cheeks warm. Draven stepped closer. There will come a moment, he continued, when you must defend yourself. And when that moment comes, I want you to survive. Seconds later, Sarah rushed out of the castle with panic etched across her face. Your Highness, she said breathlessly. An urgent summons from the Night Council. Draven tensed instantly. Lyra stood. What's wrong? The council has called a hearing, Sarah said, voice shaking. They accuse Prince Draven of unlawful possession of a human girl. Lyra's blood ran cold. Me, she whispered. Draven's jaw clenched. As expected. Sarah shoved a scroll of black parchment into his hands. They want you there before dawn. Draven tore the seal open and scanned it quickly. His hands tightened around the paper. Lyra stepped closer. What will happen? Draven looked at her with a calm she knew was fake. They mean to take you away, he said. They will claim you are a stolen human asset, and they will try to seize you. Her heart dropped. And if they succeed, you will belong to the council, Draven said darkly. And their treatment is, he forced the words out, cruel. Fear clawed at Lyra's throat. Her hands shook. Draven, I can't go with them. I'd rather die. His eyes flashed with something fierce. You won't. But how can you stop them? They're the council. Draven looked away for a long moment. Then he said quietly, there is only one way. Lyra waited, heart racing. He stepped toward her so suddenly she had to tilt her head up to meet his eyes. If I declare you my intended, he said, no one can take you. Lyra blinked. You're what? My intended. My chosen future mate. The words hung heavily between them. I don't understand. It is a sacred vampire oath, Draven said. Rarely used. It binds our fates together in front of the council. If they harm you, they harm me. Lyra stepped back. Why would you do that? Why bind yourself to someone like me? Draven stared at her, eyes burning like embers. Because I will not hand you over, he said. Not now. Not ever. Her heart thudded wildly. But this bond, does it mean we're? He cut her off with a raised hand. This is not a romantic gesture, Lyra. It is protection. Nothing more. But his voice trembled at the end. And Lyra didn't miss it. He turned to Sarah. Prepare 2 shadow mounts. We leave immediately. The Night Council's chamber was a massive stone arena lit by cold blue fire. Lyra felt small, insignificant, and exposed. Dozens of ancient vampires sat in curved thrones that spiraled upward like a dark staircase. Draven walked beside her, his presence both terrifying and comforting. His cloak billowed behind him like living shadow. A voice echoed through the chamber. Prince Draven Morvain, a council elder boomed. You stand accused of violating the human accord by acquiring a girl without proper authorization. Draven's expression didn't change. She was bought legally, yet not registered, another elder hissed. You hid her. A murmur spread through the chamber. Lyra felt eyes burning into her, judging her, measuring her, wanting to claim her. Bring forth the human, an elder commanded. Draven stepped forward sharply. She stands with me. A wave of whispers followed. The elders narrowed their eyes. Then explain, Your Highness. Why hide her? Draven's jaw tightened. Because your registry has been infiltrated by my enemies. I needed to protect her from being taken. Taken? One elder mocked. She is a human property. Nothing more. Lyra flinched. Draven's eyes flashed red. She is not property. The council chamber erupted in outrage. "Silence!" the lead elder roared. "Prince Draven, do you deny the charge?" "I do," Draven said. "And I claim her." The chamber went still. "Claim her," the elder whispered. "Impossible." Draven stepped forward, pulling a small silver blade from his belt. Lyra stared, breath frozen. "I, Draven Morvain," he said, voice ringing like thunder, "declare Lyra Dane my intended." Screams of outrage shook the chamber. "Impossible! Unacceptable! She is human. You bind your bloodline to a mortal." Draven ignored them. He sliced his palm open and lifted his bleeding hand. "This is my oath. My vow." Lyra felt dizzy. Her knees nearly buckled. Draven reached for her hand. "Lyra," he said in a low voice meant only for her. "Give me your hand." Lyra's heart hammered. "If I do this, does it bind me too?" "Yes," Draven said honestly. "But you will live." She stared at his bleeding palm. Then she placed her hand in his. Draven's blood sparked with magic as it touched her skin. A glowing mark spiraled briefly across her wrist before fading under her flesh. The council gasped. "It is done," Draven declared. He looked at her, really looked at her, and whispered, "You are mine to protect." The council had no choice. They could not violate a sacred chosen bond. But their fury followed Draven like shadow. And Lyra felt it. They had just made powerful enemies. Enemies who would not forget. The night air was thick as Draven and Lyra rode back to the castle on shadow mounts. Massive obsidian beasts made of smoke and bone. The forest whispered around them like a living maze. "Are we safe now?" Lyra asked quietly. "No," Draven said. "Now the real danger begins." Lyra swallowed hard. "Some council members were angry," she whispered. "They were enraged," Draven corrected. "And my enemies will see this as an act of defiance. They will strike soon." Lyra's fingers tightened in her mount's mane. "You protected me, but did I put you in danger?" Draven turned to her, his expression softening slightly. "I took the risk willingly. Do not blame yourself." Lyra felt warmth spread through her chest. But the warmth didn't last. Halfway through the forest, Draven's mount suddenly froze. "Down," he whispered. Lyra obeyed instantly. Shadows moved between the trees. A dagger flew out of the darkness straight toward Lyra's head. Draven moved faster than lightning. He caught the blade with his bare hand. Lyra gasped. Draven snarled. "Ambush!" Figures emerged from the treeline, cloaked assassins with glowing red eyes and silver weapons. "Shadow wolves. Nightthorn's wolves. Stay behind me," Draven ordered. The wolves lunged. Draven struck first, moving like a storm of darkness, tearing through the assassins with brutal elegance. They fell like broken dolls, one after another. But one slipped past him, raced toward Lyra. She reached for her training dagger. Too slow. The wolf jumped. Lyra screamed. And at the last moment, instinct took over. She thrust the dagger upward. The blade stabbed deep into the creature's throat. Black blood splashed across her hands. The wolf collapsed at her feet. Lyra stared at the corpse, shaking violently. She had never killed anything before. Draven killed the last assassin and rushed to her side. "Lyra," he breathed, grabbing her shoulders. "Look at me." She looked up wide-eyed. "You did well," he said. "I killed him," she whispered. "You survived," Draven corrected. "And I am proud of you." Lyra's breath hitched. But Draven suddenly stiffened. His eyes widened, staring past her. "No," he whispered. "No, no, no." Lyra turned. Her heart broke. In the distance, the entire horizon glowed red. Morvain's citadel was burning. Draven ran. Faster than she'd ever seen him move. Lyra followed, stumbling through roots and stones. The closer they got, the louder the roar of flames. Smoke swallowed the sky. The castle, the massive fortress she had come to fear and accept, was crumbling in fire. Draven's voice cracked. Ilara's wing. No! Lyra breathed. The east wing was fully engulfed. Fire raged through the windows. Shadows danced violently inside the flames as if something living was trapped and screaming. Draven stormed toward the entrance. Draven, wait! Lyra cried. He didn't stop. He crashed through the burning doors, ignoring the flames licking at his skin. Lyra followed, coughing as smoke filled her lungs. Inside was chaos. Falling beams, burning portraits, melting stone. Draven stumbled toward the east wing corridor. Ilara, he roared. I'm sorry. Lyra froze. He had never said the queen's name before. Never. Not once. But the fire grew hotter, pushing them back. No! Draven shouted, voice breaking. Not again, please, not again. Lyra grabbed his arm. Draven, stop. You'll die. He looked at her, eyes shining with raw pain. They destroyed everything, he whispered. Everything she left behind. Tears streamed down Lyra's face from the heat. Then we rebuild, she whispered. Together. A beam collapsed between them and the flames, forcing them backward. They had no choice but to flee. Outside, Draven fell to his knees. Lyra knelt beside him, taking his hand. Draven stared at the burning ruins of the east wing, the queen's wing, with a look Lyra couldn't bear. He whispered brokenly. First her. Now this. His voice cracked. Lyra pulled him into her arms. We survive, she whispered fiercely. We stay alive. And whoever did this. She wiped a tear from his cheek. We make them pay. Draven looked at her with something powerful and new. Not fear. Not distance. But trust. And something deeper. Lyra felt her heart pound as the flames reflected in his eyes. The war had begun. And she was no longer just a human girl. She was Draven's intended. Marked by blood. Protected by shadow. Bound to a prince feared by all. And she knew. Nothing would ever be the same again. Lyra and Draven watched in silence as Morvaine's citadel burned. The flames rose like angry spirits, turning the night sky a violent orange. Smoke rolled across the landscape like a living creature, swallowing the stars. Draven knelt in the ash-covered courtyard, unmoving, staring at the place that once held his past, his memories, his queen. Lyra stood behind him, unsure what to do. Her own throat burned, her eyes stung, and fear trembled through her body. But Draven's pain was heavier than anything she had ever felt. His voice finally broke the silence. It's happening again. The words were hollow, shaky. Lyra knelt beside him. Draven. They took her from me, he whispered. And now they take the last piece I had left. Lyra's chest tightened. She had never seen him like this. Never seen him appear so human. He drew in a shaky breath. Ilara died in fire. In that same wing. His voice cracked. People said it was an accident, but I knew. I knew it was murder. Lyra's breath caught. What really happened to her? Draven closed his eyes, and the flicker of flames danced across his face. She was poisoned by night thorn, he said quietly. A slow poison. One that made her weak. When she collapsed in her chambers, they came for her. In the middle of the night. Lyra trembled. Who? Assassins, he whispered. Sent by Lord Night Thorn himself. Lyra felt her blood turn cold. But why? Because Ilara discovered something. Something ancient. Something the Night Thorn bloodline wanted buried. Draven's voice deepened. She found a prophecy carved into the oldest stone beneath this castle. A prophecy about a girl. A chill crawled up Lyra's spine. What prophecy? Draven hesitated, staring into the fire. She never finished reading it, he whispered. She died before she could tell me everything. But I heard one thing from her lips while she burned. Lyra leaned in. What did she say? Draven's voice trembled. She said your name. Lyra's breath stopped. My name. He looked at her then, eyes glowing with pain and something fierce. Ilara whispered, "Save the girl named Lyra." Lyra's heart pounded violently. But how is that possible? I never met her. She died before I was even born." "Yes," Draven said. "Which means she wasn't seeing the present. She was seeing the future." Lyra felt dizzy. "This doesn't make sense. None of this makes sense." Draven reached for her hand, something he had never done so openly. "You were always meant to come here," he said quietly. "Your arrival was not an accident. It was foretold." Lyra shook her head, tears filling her eyes. "I'm nobody. I'm just a human girl sold at an auction." "You are not nobody," Draven said firmly. "Ilara's dying words were for you. She sacrificed her life to protect you." Lyra felt her legs weaken. "Why me? Why would she protect me?" "Because," Draven said gently, "you carry magic in your blood." Lyra froze. "No," she whispered. "That's not possible. Humans don't have magic." "Some do," Draven said. "A rare few. Those descended from ancient bloodlines. You are connected to Ilara. By ancestry. Distant but real." Lyra felt the world tilt around her. The fire crackled behind them, sending sparks swirling through the air like angry stars. She shook her head again and whispered, "I don't want to be part of this prophecy." Draven looked at her with sympathy that cut deeper than cruelty ever could. "I know," he said. "Neither did Ilara." A gust of wind pushed more smoke into the courtyard, forcing them to stand. Draven's cloak whipped behind him, and the burning east wing crackled louder, as though screaming with old ghosts. Lyra took Draven's hand, pulling him back before another collapsing beam sent sparks flying. "We can't stay here," she said. "The fire will spread." Draven didn't move at first. Then slowly he nodded. He squeezed her hand lightly, just once. Then he let go. "Come," he said softly. "There is something you must see." They entered the ruins carefully, Draven guiding her through fallen stone and debris still glowing with heat. The air was thick with grief. Draven led her to the half-burned library. The smell of charred leather filled the room. He knelt and pulled a half-burned wooden box from the rubble. Inside was a small, dark stone carved with ancient runes. "This is the only piece of Ilara's research that survived," Draven said. "She risked everything to hide it." Lyra leaned closer. "What does it say?" Draven traced the rune with a shaking finger. "It speaks of a child of two bloods, a girl born human, carrying a spark of forbidden magic." Lyra's throat tightened. "You think that's me?" "I know it is." Before Lyra could respond, a loud crack echoed through the castle remains. Scream. A woman's scream. Long echoing, filled with anguish. Lyra froze. Draven spun toward the sound. "Not now. Not again." The scream came again, this time from deeper within the ruins. Lyra's skin crawled. It sounded like the same voice she heard on her first night. "Ilara," Draven whispered. Temperature dropped sharply. Lyra saw her breath in the air. Draven grabbed her hand. "We have to leave. Now." "But I will not lose someone again," Draven said fiercely. "Not to the same fire. Not to the same ghost." The scream twisted into a cry that echoed through every corridor. Lyra didn't resist. Together, they ran out of the burning castle. But Lyra looked back one last time. And she swore she saw a woman's silhouette standing in the flames, watching her. They took shelter in a smaller stone house on the far side of the estate, one of the few places untouched by the fire. The servants hurried to prepare beds and food, though their hands shook with fear. Lyra sat by the window, staring at the smoke rising from the ruined castle. She felt hollow, shaken, and painfully aware of how small she was compared to the weight of all this. Draven entered quietly, closing the door behind him. "You should rest," he said. Lyra didn't turn to him. "How am I supposed to rest after everything that's happened?" Draven hesitated, then walked toward her slowly. "You did well today," he said softly. "Stronger than even I expected." She looked down at her trembling hands. "I don't feel strong." "You are," he said. "You stood beside me when the council tried to take you. You fought a shadow wolf and survived. You faced the burning remains of Ilara's death and did not run." "But I'm scared," she whispered. "So am I," Draven said. Lyra turned sharply. "What?" Draven stared at the window, eyes full of shadows. "Fear is not weakness," he said. "It is a warning. And tonight it is screaming at me." Lyra swallowed. "About what?" "Ilara's spirit." Draven's voice lowered. "She's restless. Our bond today, my oath to you, it stirred her." "Stirred her how?" Draven took a slow breath. "Ilara was powerful in life. In death, her magic lingers." Lyra's voice shook. "Draven, is she angry?" He didn't answer immediately. She is something far worse." Lyra's chest tightened. "Is she trying to hurt me because I'm here?" Lyra whispered. Draven stepped closer, kneeling in front of her. She felt his cold hand gently take hers. "Listen to me," he said. "Ilara is not your enemy." Lyra's voice cracked. "Then why did she scream at us? Why did she appear in the fire?" "She's trying to warn us," Draven said. "But her power is fractured, twisted. Rage and grief have mixed with her message." Lyra bit her lip hard. "What is she warning us about?" Draven's eyes darkened. "Night Thorn," he said. "He killed her. And now he wants you." Lyra trembled. "But I don't have anything he wants." Draven cupped her cheek gently. "You have everything he fears." Her breath caught. Draven stood suddenly, sensing something in the air. "Stay close to me," he said quietly. Lyra's blood turned cold. "What's wrong?" He didn't answer. Instead, he slowly drew a silver dagger from his belt. A cold wind blew through the room. The candles flickered violently. Lyra's hand grabbed the arm of the chair. The shadows on the walls stretched. And a faint, broken whisper filled the room. "Dear Ven." Lyra gasped. "She's here." Draven moved in front of her instantly, shielding her with his body. "Ilara," he said softly. "I'm here." The temperature dropped again. A shape formed in the corner, flickering like smoke. A woman's silhouette. Long hair. Torn gown. Her face hidden by shadow. Lyra felt her lungs freeze. Draven lowered his dagger. "You don't need to frighten her," he whispered. "Lyra is not your enemy." The shadow woman shuddered violently, her form twisting. A tortured voice echoed. "She takes my place." Lyra's eyes widened. "No, I'm not. I don't want to replace you." The spirit screamed, a sharp splintering sound that made Lyra drop to her knees, hands over her ears. Draven grabbed her shoulders. "Ilara," he roared. "Stop." The scream cut off instantly. Ilara's silhouette flickered, fading in and out. Then she spoke again. "Not her terms. For your heart." Lyra's body shook. Draven swallowed hard. "Night Thorn." The spirit raised a ghostly arm, pointing at Lyra. "Protect the girl." Lyra blinked, tears streaming down her face. The spirit was trying to protect her. Then the room filled with blinding white light. Lyra screamed as the light burst through her chest. Hot, pulsing, powerful. The entire room shook. Draven shouted her name, reaching for her. And the light vanished as suddenly as it came. Lyra collapsed into his arms, trembling violently. What was that?" she gasped. Draven stared at her in awe and fear. "Ilara awakened something inside you," he whispered. "Your magic. Your bloodline." Lyra's breath came out in shaky bursts. The spirit's last words echoed in her mind. "Protect the girl." Draven held her tightly. "You are not alone, Lyra," he whispered. "Not anymore." And for the first time, Lyra realized the truth. She wasn't a servant. She wasn't a victim. She wasn't even just his intended. She was the center of a war that began long before she was born. And her story was only beginning. The world felt too quiet after the ghostly encounter. The walls of the small shelter house seemed to pull inward, as if listening to every breath Lyra took. Draven had not left her side. He paced the room silently, eyes sharp, his cloak brushing the floor like restless shadow. Lyra sat on the edge of the bed, her hands trembling as the last echoes of Alara's voice faded from her mind. Her chest still felt warm where the light had burst from her. "Tell me the truth," she whispered finally. "What just happened to me?" Draven stopped pacing. He turned toward her slowly, and for the first time since she met him, he looked scared. "Your magic awakened," he said. Alara forced it open. Lyra pressed a hand to her chest. "But I'm human." "You are human," he agreed. "But your bloodline is not ordinary. Alara must have known you carried the spark. She must have known you would need it." Lyra swallowed hard. "Why now?" "Because Nightthorn is coming," Draven said. "And he will not stop." He moved closer and knelt in front of her. "Lyra," he said quietly, "your magic is raw and tame. If you cannot control it, it could destroy you." Her heart pounded. "But I don't know how to control anything like that." "I will teach you." He reached out and gently cupped her hands in his. But Lyra noticed something. His fingertips trembled. "You're shaking," she whispered. Draven exhaled shakily. "The awakening took a toll on me too. When Alara's spirit lashes out, her magic affects everything tied to her, including the oath I made with you." Lyra's breath caught. "So you're hurting because of me?" "No," he shook his head. "I am hurting because of Alara. Because of the past that refuses to die." His voice softened even further. "And because I almost lost you tonight." Lyra felt her throat tighten. Draven stood but not fully. He was swaying slightly. She frowned. "You're weak." He didn't deny it. "I'll recover," he said. "You're lying." Draven closed his eyes briefly. "Sunlight poisoning," he said. "The assassins used weapons coated with diluted sunlight. Even a small wound weakens us." Lyra felt a cold jolt of fear. "But you weren't wounded." "I caught a blade earlier," he said quietly. "It grazed my skin." Lyra's heart dropped. She remembered the moment he grabbed the flying dagger meant for her. "Let me see," she said. Draven hesitated. "Lyra, let me see." He turned his hand and Lyra gasped. A thin line across his palm glowed a sickly silver. The poison pulsed along his veins like cracks in glass. "Oh God," she whispered. "Why didn't you say something earlier?" "Because you were in danger," he said simply. "I needed to focus on you." "No, not like this. You can't just protect me until you fall apart." Draven tried to smile. "I am not falling apart." But as he stood, his legs buckled. Lyra lunged forward and caught him just in time. "Draven!" His head fell against her shoulder, breaths shallow and uneven. This was not the strong, unbreakable prince everyone feared. This was a man desperately holding himself together. "Lyra," he whispered weakly, "you must stay back." "No," she said fiercely. "I'm not leaving you." She lowered him onto the bed, her hands shaking as she touched his cold cheek. "What do I do?" she whispered desperately. You can't help me," he breathed. "Not without risk." "Tell me how," she insisted. His red eyes fluttered open. "There is only one way to purge sunlight poison from a vampire," he said weakly. "A source of pure blood." Lyra froze. "My blood?" Draven nodded faintly. "But you are not ready. It could hurt you." "I don't care," she said immediately. "Lyra, you said it yourself. I'm the child of two bloods. Alara awakened something in me. Maybe she did it so I could save you." He stared at her, stunned. "Let me help you," she whispered. His voice was barely a breath. "You have to be sure." "I am." Draven swallowed. Then he leaned forward close enough that she could feel his cool breath against her skin. If we do this, he said quietly, it binds us. Truly binds us. Not just by oath, but by blood. Your life will be tied to mine. Lyra's heart raced. She should have been afraid. She wasn't. I trust you, she whispered. Draven's eyes softened, so full of emotion she almost couldn't look into them. Then hold still, he murmured. He lifted her wrist gently, brushing his thumb over her pulse. His touch was cold, but it sent heat rushing through her. Slowly, he brought her wrist to his lips. Tell me to stop, he whispered. I won't. Lyra. Just do it. His fangs grazed her skin, light, testing. She inhaled sharply as warmth flooded her body. Then he bit. The pain was sharp but fleeting. Heat rushed through her arm, then through her entire body like a wildfire. She gasped, grabbing onto his shoulder for support. Draven drank slowly, carefully, as if terrified of hurting her. Every pull of his lips sent sparks dancing across her skin. Her breath came out in shivers. His hand slid gently up her spine, steadying her as the magic between them pulsed brightly. After a moment he pulled away, eyes glowing brighter, cheeks flushed with returning power. Lyra's head spun. Are you okay? She whispered. Draven gently pressed her wrist to stop the bleeding. His voice was low, soft, reverent. You saved me. She managed a breathless smile. You saved me first. He brushed a thumb across her cheek slowly. We are bound now, he whispered. In a way even the council cannot break. Lyra's cheeks warmed. Draven leaned closer. Not to kiss her, but to rest his forehead gently against hers. You are no longer my intended, he murmured. You are my heart. Lyra's breath hitched. And in that moment, she believed him. Because she could feel his heartbeat echoing in her own. The next morning arrived with heavy gray clouds hanging low in the sky. It felt like the world itself was holding its breath. Draven was stronger, almost fully healed, but the poison had left traces of fatigue around his eyes. Lyra watched him quietly as he stood near the window, staring out at the smoldering ruins of the castle. Night Thorn will strike again, he said quietly. He always finishes what he starts. Lyra stood beside him. Let him come. I'm not running. Draven looked at her, surprised by her sudden boldness. You have changed, he said. Lyra nodded. I'm not the same scared girl you bought at the auction. No, he said softly. You are so much more. She felt warmth spread through her chest. But the warmth was cut short by the sound of distant horns. Echoing. Threatening. Lyra's eyes widened. What is that? Draven's expression darkened. War horns. He moved toward the door, grabbing his sword. Lyra followed closely. Stay behind me, he ordered. No, Lyra said firmly. I'm fighting too. Draven turned sharply. Lyra, this is not training. This is not a skirmish. Night Thorn is marching toward us with an army. I don't care, Lyra said. This is my fight now. Draven's jaw clenched. He wanted to argue, she knew he did. But something in her expression stopped him. He nodded once. Very well, he said softly. But stay at my side. They stepped outside. And Lyra gasped. A sea of soldiers marched across the burned field. Shadow wolves, vampire warriors, monstrous creatures she couldn't name. Banners of black and red waved above them. Draven stepped forward, cloak whipping behind him. Night Thorn himself approached on a massive obsidian steed, wearing armor that looked forged from darkness itself. His silver hair glowed in the dim light, and his fangs gleamed. Well, Night Thorn said with a cruel smile. The famous Prince Draven. And his little pet. Lyra stiffened. Draven growled. She is not your concern. Nightthorn's eyes flashed. Oh, she is exactly my concern. The prophecy lives in her. The magic that killed my father flows in her blood. Lyra felt Draven step protectively in front of her. "You will not touch her," Draven said coldly. Nightthorn laughed. "Then you will die first." He raised his hand. His army charged. Everything erupted. Draven drew his sword and lunged forward, moving with a speed Lyra had never seen. He clashed with Nightthorn, steel slamming against shadow. Their battle was thunder, their strength inhuman. Lyra forced herself to breathe. "I am not weak." She drew her dagger and sprinted into the battlefield. A shadow wolf lunged at her. She dodged and stabbed its throat like Draven taught her. Another came. She slashed its leg and rolled aside. Magic pulsed suddenly in her chest. Hot, bright, wild. A blast of white light burst from her palms. The ground shook. Dozens of enemies were thrown backward, screaming as the light burned them. Lyra gasped. What did I just do?" Draven, locked in combat with Nightthorn, glanced at her with awe and fear. "You are awakening," he shouted. "Use it. Control it." Lyra lifted her hands again. The magic surged powerful and alive. She directed it toward a group of shadow beasts. A beam of light exploded from her hands, tearing through them like lightning. Nightthorn roared in rage. "Stop her," he yelled. "She will ruin everything." Draven shoved him back. "She is destiny, Nightthorn." Their swords clashed again. Nightthorn snarled. "She will die, Draven. Just like your beloved queen." Lyra froze. Draven's rage became monstrous. He attacked with renewed fury, forcing Nightthorn backward. Sparks flew. Magic cracked through the air. Nightthorn staggered. "Lyra!" Draven yelled. "Now!" Lyra didn't think. She raised her hands. The light inside her surged, building, growing, threatening to explode. Nightthorn rushed toward her. Lyra screamed and released everything. A blinding blast of white energy exploded outward. Nightthorn was thrown into the shattered remnants of the castle wall. He slumped to the ground, armor cracking, blood spilling. He tried to rise. Draven appeared behind him like a shadow of death. "This is for Ilara," Draven said. And he drove his sword through Nightthorn's heart. The air fell silent. The battlefield went still. Then every surviving creature fled into the woods. Draven lowered his sword, chest heaving. Lyra collapsed to her knees, overwhelmed by exhaustion and fading magic. Draven ran to her and caught her in his arms. "Lyra," he breathed. She looked up weakly. "Did we win?" Draven smiled softly, real, warm, full of pride. "Yes," he said. "Because of you." She rested her forehead against his chest. "What happens now?" she whispered. Draven lifted her gently and held her close. "Now," he said softly, "you choose your future." She hesitated. "And what if I choose to stay with you?" He cupped her face tenderly. "Then you become my equal. My queen. The midnight bride." Lyra's breath trembled. "And immortality." "It will be your choice," Draven said. "Not forced. Not taken. Chosen." Lyra smiled through her exhaustion. "I choose you," she whispered. Draven pulled her into his arms, holding her as though she were the only thing left in the world. And as the sun began to rise behind the ruins, Lyra realized something. She had not just survived a prophecy. She had become one. The unwanted girl was gone. In her place stood the future queen of the night. If you're still here, then you're officially part of this world now. And trust me, what comes next is darker, deeper, and 10 times more dangerous. So don't just scroll away. Hit that like button if your heart raced even once in this episode. Subscribe so you never miss the next chapter, because the war has only begun. And turn on the notification bell, or Nightthorn's shadows might reach you before the story does. Comment below. Should Lyra fully accept immortality? Or is there a twist destiny hasn't revealed yet? Your comment might shape the next chapter. This story isn't just mine anymore, it's ours. See you in the next one. If you're brave enough. If you're still here, then you're officially part of this world now. And trust me, what comes next is darker, deeper, and 10 times more dangerous. So don't just scroll away. Hit that like button if your heart raced even once in this episode. Subscribe so you never miss the next chapter, because the war has only begun. And turn on the notification bell, or Nightthorn's shadows might reach you before the story does. Comment below. Should Lyra fully accept immortality? Or is there a twist destiny hasn't revealed yet? Your comment might shape the next chapter. This story isn't just mine anymore, it's ours. See you in the next one. If you're brave enough.